Just felt like talking. Didn't know how to start. So I picked up the Bible and just flipped open. Let me just start reading. That's what I looked at. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Do you remember when that sign happened a couple years ago? And like literally in the heavens in the sky above a couple years ago, that actually happened. Of course, it wasn't a literal woman, but those things lined up. Anyway. And she, being with child, cried, travailed in birth, and pained to be delivered. And there's always things in here that you can get for yourself that I could get for myself now that I could look back and I've gotten on that, the path to finding the way, the road to recovery, so to speak, which is repentance, I would say. That's what I found, and that's what I'd just like to share a message about here. Maybe like last call, maybe, so to speak. Or I would like it to be. I would. Because these are things I realized way late in life that I should have grown up thinking about, considering, knowing. It makes for a lifetime of woulda, coulda, shouldas, looking back. But that's where a lot of actual lessons can be found in. And everyone has their own unique set of lessons inside them they're carrying around them. I figure. Let me continue. There appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, 7 crowns upon his heads. His tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. You know, looking back on my life, I can kind of, and if what I say seems to trigger something within, don't ignore that contradiction you felt, so it's important. For me, looking back, I could look at this and my children before they were born. I was kind of standing there as that red dragon with the 7 crowns, 10 horns, you know, the whatever, the 7 and the 10. So the 7 chakras. 7 chakras of mind not in alignment, because I didn't know what the heck any of that meant at that time, because I wasn't grown. I was a child inside due to a lifetime of indoctrination and programming. So here I go. I guess I'm going now. So, and then there's the 7, that very spiritual number that can be found tied to all kinds of stuff. And then the 10, what's that? Well, maybe it wasn't my 7 chakras. Maybe it was the 10 Sephiroth, or the 10 emanations of God, or archetypes of nature, or however you want to put it. Whatever it was, I was all kind of misaligned inside, so to speak. Mind, body, soul. Body poisoned, mind in a state of perpetual childhood, which wouldn't be perpetual. It turns out now, I've come to realize in the last few years, all thanks to the Most High. So I make that clear. Though the part about being stuck in a state of perpetual childhood, it very well could have been, because I didn't realize I was stuck in a state of mental childhood. I thought I was a grown-ass man, adult, doing things out in the world that was right. And I had no idea who, what, why I was, let alone what I was doing, who I was doing it for, or who I was doing it to, because of what someone was saying to do. Anyway, that's my cross to bear. But me standing there before my wife delivered my children, I was standing there not knowing any better, thinking, yes, the poisons will be great for them. They'll be able to, get these vaccines just like good old dad being pumped full of about 4 pages worth of vaccine records in my 21 years in the military. You think they're safe? Nope, they're not. They're to destroy the mind and body. They're to keep one locked into that state of perpetual childhood and movies playing in the mind. So one acts out a role as a role player in reality to a state that's much darker and disconnected within than a lot of others in other parts of the same beast system that it all is. So just realize that, because doing that, and then there was some part to this. The dog's over here licking himself pretty loud. Casting down a third part of the stars from heaven to earth. Well, for me, yeah, I guess maybe that was my misalignment, because the third of the stars within me, so to speak, or chakras or energy centers, were cast down onto the earth, in the earth, into my bowels, into my addictions, and the driving of my behavior, without full use of, in full alignment with, all due to toxicity and belief. So, there's so many things, so many lessons that can be found on this. Well, what's it mean on the macro scale? Anything? I don't know. It doesn't matter. There's wisdom that can be found and gained within oneself from one's own life experience. And then for me, that's why I try to make it clear. Just on so many of these things. So many want to debate, endlessly debate, and that's the problem. We've all been under generations worth of mind control. Who knows how long? I don't know. I know because of how I grew up, and because of how my mom grew up, and about as far back as I can look is what she's told me about her life with her parents. That's as far back as I can see in my real moment-to-moment everyday life, what I have lived, my personal experience, right? It's similar for everyone else, so you look back, you can see these tricks have been played for generations, and it goes back much further. And what's playing out right now is the same old continuation of nonsense. But now's the perfect time to realize those things. To realize the mistakes that were made, that you've made. Like I had to realize the mistakes I've made. That's where wisdom comes from, when you realize the mistake you've made to just such a deep, profound level where it actually turns into, forces one into repentance. If you dig deep enough, instead of just ignoring and saying, well, maybe things like vaccines are right. Maybe they're wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'll just stay out of it. Maybe it's just a debate. Maybe they should be able to use them, but I won't because they're poison. There's no debate. Poison's poison, period. Shouldn't be manufactured in the first place. Those ingredients shouldn't be synthesized and combined in a fashion into which they're poison, period. Manufactured, let alone distributed, let alone injected, let alone pushed on others, let alone used by one that believes that they are good, because they're not. And that's a fact. And that's why things aren't relative. And that's why that's another lie, relativity. And how many other lies? I mean, I have video after video. That's why I don't want to repeat myself endlessly on one specific lie, because they're all lies looking back. And it's not fair to say all, and I try so hard not to use those kind of terms like all, always, never, because it's nonsense. Because I have no place in saying such a thing, because I'm not the Most High. I have a limited time here to experience this world in this body like everyone else does, every other man and woman. And that would be the key. If every other man and woman could just realize simply beneath all the labels, all the nonsensical labels of belief they've attached themselves to and allowed themselves to be fractured and divided by, and then turned on each other by, at the core of them, they're a man or a woman. Then they could all quickly see and feel the commonality within us all. It'd be simple, wouldn't it? It would. That takes breaking a whole bunch of mind traps, getting a bunch of toxicity out and a bunch of toxic beliefs. Yep. So, what else to say? Anything? Why does it matter? And then there's that question, why does it matter? Or what if? What if this? What if that? What if there are no what ifs? What if all of this truly matters? Every action, every thought that drove that action, every feeling that went along with the consequence of that action. What if every single bit of it mattered for every single one of us? I feel it does. I feel it's real important to consider right now while there's still a chance, so one can change themselves. I really do. And in doing so, can help change all of it. So something such as, why does it matter if we do not live on a globe? Why does it even matter? I'll tell you why it matters for me. For 21 years, I was in the military believing I lived on a globe that was flying through space, that I had to protect my homeland and the folks that lived there. That was the image going through my mind. And that all were divided up and that's just how things work and we would have to fight each other, whatever. That's what history said. That's what all the lies said. That's what all the programming said. That's what all the cartoons and the movies pushed, images of that. So it makes it easy to accept and then join, and then we get pumped full of poison. And then somehow not realize through all of those years, with all of that ability and access to equipment to observe things at distances I shouldn't be able to see things were I to live on a globe, but not ever making that connection because the thought never crossed my mind. Why? Because that stuff isn't taught. That stuff isn't taught in school or here, there, or whatever. It's compartmentalized information that some know about depending on what part of the B system they work in. Some don't. And the ones that don't end up doing things like doing the pick a team thing. Go pick a team and go fight. And it happens whether it's words or whether it's bullets. It's pick a team, pick a side, and fight. Because someone else said so. So why does it matter? Had I known that? Because during that whole time, I thought that I was poisoned like that. I had no conscience after a while. My wife brought out some old letters that I wrote the other day and read one from 2005. And I was not a monster, as I've talked about myself all my life. Though during the last 3 years, 4 years now, whatever, of looking back, I tended to focus on the bad because of all the harm that I caused. Ones I care about, my family, the ones I love the most, my mother, and then to others around me, friends, who I realized I never knew because I never knew myself. So how could they have ever known me? So was it any of it true? No, not truly. I was too broken. I didn't know that at the time. That's what I've been trying to get across. Like, that's why it's so dangerous out there with folk doing what they're doing right now and going along with what they're going along with. They're poisoning themselves and each other because someone else keeps telling them to, and they keep believing it, and they keep following some Pied Piper or other. So I didn't think or really feel that there was a God, and if there was, I was very angry at God, and I was full of blasphemy and all kinds of things. As darkly as I could put things. Why? part of it because I was a child inside, a mental child, and definitely a spiritual child. So my darkness would lash out because I knew others did feel good inside sometimes from these happy things. Santa Claus and fairy tales and unicorns and in their religion. So I would say very dark, nasty things because I knew it would get folk riled up. And it did, which lets me know now they were never truly secure in what they thought anyway, because that's all it was thoughts and beliefs. It wasn't things they felt truly deeply in their heart, because their actions would have been different than they were. I see that now, though we are all playing our roles with our masks on, all of us, until we stop playing roles in this role-playing game that we're all just set up to play from birth. Someone else's version of a real-life role-playing game where you pick a role and you play that role, and it's hoped that you never, ever be able to see, consider, and realize the vastly bigger, deeper picture of what it all means, what you're in, and especially yourself and what you mean. And what you mean as a part of all this. Once I realized, after I was out, retired, so to speak, broken, so broken, though I'm so thankful for it, because at least I got the chance to try to convey these things while there was a chance for me to try. Anyway, realizing so many of the lies, so many. I'm not sure exactly when it happened, but there was at some point. And realizing I didn't live on a globe spinning through space was a big one, where deeply I felt and realized and knew that there is a creator above all of this. And that helped me tie together all the rest of the symbolism on how archetypes of nature and our own psychology and how we operate and function as man and woman, as man and womankind, the way our minds and hearts work, the way our consciousness and conscience works and can work together in tandem, in a way connected to spirituality and the Most High and morality and truth that can be so unshakable and unwavering they cannot be ever tricked again by another sorcerer or their ridiculous beliefs, or how they decide to phrase things or put things or turn things with whatever usage of symbology they would like to use or put term to. It's just the truth. So why does it matter? It matters because here's my cross to bear. I've shown before, and I hate to do this. So this is ugly, but this is why. This is why it matters, because because 2/1905, February 19th, 2005. Well, 15 years ago, that man died, and other men died because the one on this, I cannot say because this man, because that was me. I'm 43 now, though 44 were I to go to consider to conception for how long I've actually been here, which is more accurate. I was not a man in that photo, so you can do the math and determine the age. And I was no man yet. I was a child in my mind. And my spirit was so, what I had in there, the care I had in there, it was shattered. And it shattered my psyche and fragmented it into 1,000 pieces. No, I'm not trying to give some ridiculous symbolism about like 1,000 points of light, new road ranges. Nonsense. Bunch of mental and spiritual, dark, nasty children playing with symbolism and playing with lives of other men and women. Because when I was standing there at that time, trying to process what was going on, what just happened, what else, is there any more threats? Totally in that state of fight. Just because someone else put me there. So that man in that picture, and another man, and other folks having nothing to do with me, their journey here was ended. Their life experience was ended. That man, woman, child, whoever, they're not children. I'm saying, but that happens. And that's why it's so dark and so sick. Because their life experience has ended. So that's a mother, a daughter, a father, a brother, sister, niece, aunt, uncle gone. Why? Because someone thought that they were protecting where they come from. And that is so absolutely nonsensical and ridiculous once the lies are peeled apart. To see how all the systems have been built. How we've been slaves going all the way back, all of us. The Babylonian nonsense, Lex Morgatoria, Maritime Law, Uniform Commercial Code. Trying to just wrap it all up into the no-eyed laws with digital only access to everything, and only if you're poisoned and marked by the beast. We've all been marked since we were born. We were born into this ridiculous beast system. I mean, so that's what my call is, because realizing that for me deeply inside, that's my cross to bear. That is something I cannot correct. I cannot right. I cannot reverse. The damage I let happen to my children, being pumped full of the same poisons that poison me, the vaccines, feeding them the same processed food and drink, poison, full of dyes and sugar, poisoning them. I didn't know better. I was consuming those same types of things and worse. Alcohol, psychiatric drugs. Recognize, please, whoever you are out there, whatever uniform or costume you wear for the system, realize it's someone else's system. Legality is not morality. Feel that in your heart and look back. Try to find some place in your past where you can connect to, when you can feel that life was simpler and those around you weren't necessarily out to get you or your enemy or your competition. Future regret doesn't have to be generated. Evil or wrong is a choice. Though at the time, you may not realize you have another choice or choices. That's the thing. There's a multitude of different choices for every action you could take. They're just doing simply what's right. That doesn't cause harm. It's the most easy, simplest, right way to go. Maybe the road to recovery, like I said, in repentance. And it hurts so deep inside to realize how badly one was tricked and lied to their whole life, when all he wanted to do was just trust, be a part of the group, go along, do what's right. It hurts. But the refusal to accept that inside is what allows others to continue that behavior, so they can keep playing out the fantasy role they have in their mind of what they think their life is and what it means. at the expense of themselves and everyone around them. Please make the choice to just look around and start to ask why all of this? Why are you here? Why are you there? Why are we doing these things? Why are these things being done? Ask why. Who are they being done for? And why not just stop and change and do something different? Man and womankind have that ability. We've all been gifted that ability from the Most High. The problem is it's been poisoned and suppressed and indoctrinated out of society, but not all of society. Because there's plenty that do know much better and know much better than I do and have known for far longer than I have and likely are so much further along in getting things going the right way. Though where they are, I don't know. And I get why. Because what group is good? For me, I joined the biggest group I could find that I thought was good so I could try and play out a protector role. So here we are on March 22nd, 2020. 322. The nonsense of that symbology, the skull and bones crap. Well, in my skull, in my bones, at that time, I was such a mess. You know why? The 22, the master builder number, right? The 1111, or pillars of consciousness. My logic and creativity of my lower consciousness, or what I should know all along, is logically and creatively be able to see, to reason out reality. Those were all misaligned in a mess. And I had yet to even know that there were higher pillars of consciousness, self-defense and non-aggression. Both. Sounds contradictory, isn't it? It's not. In unity, it works. In unity, it is morality in action. It is the stopping of harm because of knowing actually how to protect and care for oneself and others. It's that simple. So at the time, with my pillars of consciousness and my skull so misaligned, I fell prey and victim to these ridiculous societies of whatever that have just used their symbolism in ridiculous dogmatic type ritual just to indoctrinate into hierarchical structure of thought in a kind of like a half-assed metaphysical type of way to tie together larger archetypes of nature and psychology within them to some kind of dark type of concept or animalistic type of behavior that would drive and fulfill addictions. Because the ones that use those kinds of symbols and symbology or have a lack of real understanding or deep knowledge of themselves, how they function, how they operate, their heart, their mind, their thoughts, emotion, and reason, the feelings that manifest, where they manifest from, how they manifest, how those tie together. And can you stop and correct and control them to create right action? I know I couldn't. It took me over 4 decades. So anyway, that's all I'm trying to convey, and it's been a process. Now the dog's drinking water pretty loud. Where was I going with that? So yeah, so the 322 with all the fear nonsense of blah, blah, blah. You think these so-called secret societies, open societies, it's all... These folks don't know deeply in themselves because they've been poisoned too. Because 322 is just 223 backwards, or 2 pairs of 23 chromosomes, which makes up a man or woman when those come together. And then the Most High gifts those chromosomes with the spark of consciousness, which later hopefully will grow a conscience and live by that. I mean, it's just ridiculous inversion and mirroring and just whatever. It's nonsense. And folks just have to tie together themselves and realize themselves by getting the toxins out, really, and reflecting deeply and getting the lessons they need inside, so they can't be misled by these ridiculous sorcerers that have fallen for all their own tricks for so long, and it's so visible how they're poisoned. You can see the swelling in their faces. You can see it in how they function and behave, or their lack of natural functioning as they speak, as they can only read, or when they're put on the spot, how they will search for words, or how they will speak in contradictory statements within the same sentence, will contradict themselves and itself, statement after statement after statement. And you'll see there's no fact to back up any of this crap. It's belief. So is there any other meaning to the numbers? I don't know, whatever. Because I'm not a part of any of these societies or groups. I looked into things on my own deeply when I was on my road to repentance, during a lot of deep reflection inside, going through a lot of the older type esoteric, so to speak, knowledge like I've spoken about before. What it did for me was to give me a clear understanding of symbols, how they interrelate in so many ways that after a while, the archetypes and these symbols and the representations of these things in nature and one's own psychology and inner workings and biology and physiology, how it all ties together. It all does. Things have just been represented and misrepresented in way after way after way, under label after label after label after label. But it's all the same. It's all the same stuff at its foundation. So is it 322? Is it because 3 times 22, because that's 66, and then that's double 33s, and that's all this other, it's all nonsense. Folks in costumes without, like, deeper meaning has to be felt from these symbols to really get it. Like 33. Instead of just, is there deeper meaning in there for you, or is it just a symbol of fear? Or is it just because it's very obviously a symbol of propaganda, easily picked out, which is a favorite of so many? But does it have deeper meaning, such as the 33 degrees or 33 degrees Fahrenheit when water moves to its liquid state from its frozen state, or energy, energetically, so to speak, goes from the state of frozen or ice or in ice, like the just ice you get out there in the way the system is built of justice. And folk don't know it because of the systems they're a part of. They think they're doing right. I get it. I was a part of the same system. So you could do the jobs that you're doing right now. I'm still waiting. I'm waiting. And I won't be able to pay my ultimate price for what I did so you can live in the system you live in and do the jobs you do to provide just ice through the pole ice or whatever, but that relates to the pole or the spine being in ice. And I was in that same state. I'm not mocking. I'm not making fun. It's a trap. It's a mind trap. It's a mind trap of authority and power. Of authority and power over your fellow man that you were never born with authority or power over. It was only for you and yourself, in your own thoughts, in your own perception, to control your own actions, to live in harmony with nature. So if you were born like I was into this system, born right into it and poisoned right from the start, and then indoctrinated and expelled all the way through life, well, then you likely are experiencing the same kind of thing that I experienced, like so many of the rest of society is experiencing. And right now, I hope pulling out of with a quickness, with deep, deep reflection, with vast, wide conceptualization, to break the categories of labels and strip those away in the bad information, and to feel the stillness and just get what has happened. And then to stop repeating mistakes. Because once that repetition stops, the insanity stops, because insanity is repetition, and repentance will correct that. It did for me inside in such a way that I never knew I could feel for so much of my life. That's what I've been trying to convey to others, to help others feel these things without going down these dark roads of suffering and pain, because that's what the old spells and the old sorcery has done for generations. It just kept folks in mind traps, repeating destructive patterns of behavior. And whoever of any age has to snap out of it if they're still in that. It's not normal. It's not correct. It's not in harmony, in line with nature. And now's the time to do it. And realize things are being done right now that need to be stopped. I mean, why? The damage that's been done over time with some of these devices, 3G, 4G, the microwave frequencies that cause cell mutation, cell damage, suppression of the consciousness, the microwave ovens that damage, I mean, they create toxicity. What you put into a microwave for sustenance does not come out as sustenance for the body. It comes out strict and devoid of life. Life, natural, fruit, vegetables, minerals from the earth. That's how I clean my system out. That's the information I've been able to try to convey. The things that I've come to know because they've worked for me, because I've experienced them and lived them, and that's what I've tried to share so I don't mislead anyone. Because right now there's way too much misleading and lead, or you could say lead, because there's a lot that are still trapped in that place of lead, spiritually and mentally, and they weigh their body down where their body physically feels like lead because it's full of poisons and toxins and things that man and womankind should not consume because they're unnatural. So how can one ever attain spiritual gold, metaphysical gold inside, or the very real physical feeling of gold, so to speak, when one is in a healthy, balanced state? For me, I would say it's not possible. Though I'm not the Most High, I can't say that. It was for me. I was so toxic, I didn't know such a feeling existed. I didn't know I was that lead weight that was weighing myself down. I was that millstone tied around my neck because I was doing harm or letting harm be done to my children, the ones I loved, by letting them be poisoned, injected with poison. Watch programming that was dark and poisonous to their psyche. Play video games that were poisonous to their psyche. Why? Because I was still consuming those poisons and toxins, and I thought it was all right because I was broken, because I thought I was grown, because I thought I was a pile of ridiculous labels in my mind, which turned out had compartmentalized and narrowed my view to where I had the blinders on everything, myself, life itself, what everything was, what it meant, and I just went along with whatever I believed, whatever I was told. It's not the right way. Each of us has to do what we know is right. Because what we know is right is the truth. Because it's a fact. Because it's not based on someone else's belief. And that's a choice. That's a choice each can make. We each have the free will and authority to make all those choices inside. You're not a piece of paper. You're not a figment of someone else's imagination. You're not standing on a thing that's a figment of someone else's imagination, spinning through space, another figment of someone else's imagination, as described. Because there's plenty of space. And that's the thing, folks just need to spread out on it. Use their energy, use their knowledge and expertise and their energy to help each other. Spread out all of this room out there. So-called state-owned land. How can a state own land? How can anything own land? We all just walk upon the land, man and woman on the land. It brings me back to that Hopi wheel. I wanted to say another thing about that, like I mentioned in my last message. So just to revisit that for a moment. Those colors in the circle, the black and white and red and yellow. So black and white can be looked at simply as right and wrong. Good and evil. You have the free will of choice to make the right choice or the wrong choice. To either know or not know. Yeah, that choice. So those two colors could represent that for every man and woman, simply and easily, with right and wrong. And there is truth in that, absolute truth in that is not relative. So, the red is the blood inside man and womankind. Blood that pumps through our veins that allow us to experience this every heartbeat, this life we have to experience here. And the yellow, the air, that's simply the air we breathe. The air that's poisoned and being poisoned and has the poisons, the other electromagnetic poisonous, so to speak, use of energy in so many dark ways. And that is getting worse. And the 5G, it is a weapon system. It is a weapon system. So you can believe otherwise. That doesn't matter. 5G is a weapon system. It will tie all this stuff together. It is. That works at millimeter wave frequencies. So there's anyway. Look into it because you can know better. Or you can keep trusting whatever ridiculous nonsense source, and you can play it off and downplay it like you can play it off and downplay vaccines, or you can play it off and downplay the financial system and debate how that should work, and gold and currency and this and that. Well, yeah, fractional reserve banking, it's all fake. It's all been fake, and that's the newest version. If you want to go backwards and fall backwards into the same traps, well, go. That's what's being pushed to make it easier, to make it digital. And they just fall back into the simplicity of someone else's version of God said so. Which is just some man or woman saying they have authority over you. because of whatever layers of folks in costumes tell them they had authority that filters down to them. Eventually, if you go looking out there, there's some of them snakes, some of them that are saying, they're not saying because my boss said so. They're not saying because, my supervisor or any of this other nonsense said so. The department head said so. No. There's some of them saying because God said so. Because God said so. God said, I should tell you all this stuff, and this is how we should do stuff. So you should all poison yourselves. You should all come together into this fake way. You should all just turn yourself into some kind of transformer. However you want to do it, as long as it's unnatural, as long as you're sick, as long as you're addicted to poison, as long as you act like an animal, as long as you don't know what procreation means, and you just ravenously satisfy your addictions as you ravenously consume material things that you don't need. That's all that's wanted, because that's all that's been going on at the expense of others. So that's why I carry this picture and think of why would I have such a thing? Because when I wore that costume, I was a child. I thought I was doing what's right. And in my mind, in this dark way of playing out that fantasy, going, but kill the bad guy. I guess trying to resolve all of that adrenaline and emotion and darkness and trauma all at once, and just having to come up with something, okay, yeah, bad guy, great. And it drove me into darkness, trying to convince myself I was right, it was right. And you know what? That's what I'm talking about. That's my letters got more and more broken over time. And I've tried to convey it best I could. It's a long road back, the healing process of all the poison. Please, everyone, get on it while you can, while you have a chance. Please help your loved ones. Please just see what you're doing, who you're doing it for, and stop doing it. Stop doing it unless you have a good reason to do it, because you're actually protecting and caring for someone. Start with yourself. Figure out what all this means. Please, quick. Figure out what you mean in the grand scheme of things on your microcosm scale, because that's the thing. Cause and effect. What I realized too, part of realizing there's a creator, there is one overall cause to all of these effects. All of us are effects, right? There is one overall cause of creation. That is the creator. That's above all of creation, or any symbols or any belief or any way that you can guide or misguide man or woman with hierarchical thought or labels or belief. There is one cause, and that can be felt and known and realized and seen, because all of us are effects. Though on the microcosm, on our scale, we, every man and woman, we are the cause of all of the effects we create. As for me, I have my own cross to bear, because I was the cause for all of the effects, good or bad, that I've created in my life. And for the bad, I had to realize at some point that they were bad. Some I didn't realize. So many I didn't even realize until I did. Until I crumbled, so to speak. So that's all I'm trying to convey to others. Please, take the time while you have it to consider. Because I don't know how better or clear or concise I could put things, or what other solutions I could offer, because I can only talk from my own experience or what I've come to know. So if I said anything of value, please feel free to share it wherever. However, I don't want the credit or any of this other crap. I felt like I was going to say one more thing there, and then I may have lost it. Something that felt like I wanted to kind of maybe close with. Yeah. It took quite a lot for me to get through the darkness inside on that road to repentance, so to speak, of trying to get out of that place of wanting to take my own life or the life that I've taken. I put it like that, simply and bluntly, I guess. I had to get so much physical toxins out, and I was so sick. It took me a long time mentally and much longer spiritually than it could have, should have, would have. But once I got through it and realizing how important it was to try and convey that to others, please realize that's all I'm trying to do for reasons much greater than me, that I can't convey to you, that I can't give you, that I can only say is that there's a Most High, there's a Creator. And what all of us do matters. So for everyone still in the system, operating in the system right now, please realize this too. This is something else I had to deal with. Thoughts in my mind, thoughts came back as I went through my process in here, inside of reflection. All the times I was told going to and from places or around when I was back home, when someone would say, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. And I never enjoyed that. I never liked that. I never knew how to take that. I was never good at taking compliments. And now I realize why. Because inside I knew it wasn't right. It wasn't warranted. It didn't match something. And now I realize why. Because it was an automatic response from others, from folks, to just thanking the system, not me. Just thanking the system, because that's how I looked at things. It's just I'm doing things for the system or this thing I believe in. And it was so inverted and twisted, and then recognizing, thinking back that every time someone thanked me, whoever that man or woman was that said thank you, they didn't know. They didn't know what they were thanking me for, because they didn't know what I was doing or who I was doing it for, just like I didn't know what I was doing or who I was doing it for. So they were thanking me for causing others to die. They thanked me. They thanked me for being that cause point of another man's death, of another man not getting to go home and experience his family and friends another meal, another breath of fresh air, or seeing the sun come into view or go out of view. Because of me, because I was the cause of that, because I didn't know better. I only believed. So while all of this is going on, please, you men and women that are in the system, please realize you have to look into what's been done and why. You're the ones that have to heal. You're the ones that have to make the right choices. You're the ones from the bottom up are the ones that are going to have to change and retool this entire system, because you're in the places to do it. You're in the places to stop manufacturing things that cause harm, to stop. Just to know better. Just to know better and change the things that cause harm and start doing things that could help. So many poison factories could be changed to indoor growing facilities for these places called cities that were really just prisons to trap a large number of men and women into an unnatural environment and keep them unnaturally in a state of unnatural dependence upon the systems they're surrounded by, without them realizing. Now's the time all can realize Now's the time all can start growing all kinds of food indoors. Just simply stop using all these spaces for poison. And during that process, start to spread out and start to use the energy to help each other build communities in a common unity of goodness and morality. Well, that's where I'm at anyway, and that's where I've been at. So that's the message I've been trying to convey, and that's how I live. So that's the best way I can put it. So thank you for listening, and I guess maybe I'll call this last call, like I said, yeah. So if this is my last call, so to speak, thanks for listening, and I appreciate your attention. All right.